going to say this last thing to you. You got a family of 5, and you are making minimum wage.
Sheesh.
You are spending more than 50% of your income on rent.
Right, at least.
What are you feeding your children at night? You're
Whatever's
going to find some mac and cheese, some Kraft mac and cheese. You're going to have some rice, and you're going to have some high-fat chicken or beef. Come on now, let's not pretend that
whatever's
this is
cheapest.
as simple as we're making it.
Oh no, I don't think we're making it simple.
All of these different systems.
Right. But speaking of which, because I need to segue, because this is the system that really is the most unjust, which is the justice system. And when it comes to Rikers Island, what I last read, and Jennifer, you can correct me if I'm wrong, was that 167 inmates had been diagnosed with the virus and 137 staff members had been diagnosed. And then they had something called a compassionate release program where they released these inmates so that I guess they would not catch the virus. What is going on at Rikers?
So, I chair the New York City Board of Correction. And as the chair, every day I get an update at the end of the day. I have not yet gotten it because it's usually sent to me at about 8 p.m. The numbers yesterday are double what you just gave us for detainees. The numbers for detainees that have been contaminated, this is a public report, now are above 365 persons. The number of DOC, the Department of Correction officers that are contaminated is now well above 700 persons. Presently, there are about 4,300 detainees on Rikers Island. What has been done over the course of the last 4 weeks is to get that number down to 4,300. It was at about 5,800. And that has been through the compassionate release program. Releasing parole violators who were in there on technical violations, releasing pretrial detainees with the DA's approvals, and releasing city sentenced persons with less than a year. So the game plan has been to be, on one hand, to do the compassionate release, as well as releasing older persons and people with underlying conditions that would put them more at risk. So that helped to move out about 1,500 people. The other thing that the Department of Correction has sought to do is physical distancing. And so they've opened up more buildings to create more space between the detainees. And when someone is identified to have been contaminated, putting those persons into quarantine. It is not a foolproof method. It is not something that automatically is going to shut the disease down. One of our biggest challenges, again, is when you have people, I'm just putting it right out there, we don't know if the disease is coming into the jail or if it was already there. When you appreciate that the correction officers very often come from the very same communities that are the most devastated and impacted with the highest concentration of COVID, many of them are bringing them into the facilities. So the most that the jails can do right now, and then you have advocates for victims who say, you can't just turn everybody out there and just let them go. So there's an effort underway right now to make sure that the people who are not charged with the most heinous crimes are in fact released. But it's this kind of 3-point process. Get as many people out, right? And work with the DAs and the state around the parole board. Try to contain the disease when it is there within, and practice as much social and physical distancing as you possibly can.
There was all of this, there was a lot of talk around bail reform. And it's something that's, I believe, died in Albany because some of the upstate politicians weren't interested in bail reform. Do you think that this instance, this particular situation makes it so that this can be revisited?
So we actually do have bail reform legislation right now.
Right.
We did get that to come into play at the end of last year. The challenge that is before us right now with bail reform is that in certain jurisdictions around the state and a few here in the city, there have been instances where people were released I shouldn't say they were released, they never went into jail while awaiting trial, and they have allegedly committed another crime, an infraction of sorts. And so there's this question about whether or not these people actually should be out. And that's where the people who want to pull back on bail reform. Bail reform is actually helping us right now here in New York City. If we did not have bail reform in place, we'd have hundreds more people actually on Rikers right now. But bail reform kept those people from going in there, so our numbers are actually much less than they otherwise would have been.
Well, that's excellent. That is excellent.
Much fewer.
Now, Sarah, if you could talk to us about some of the things, because I'm always thinking of strategies to improve, meaning, yeah, we have big problems, but the silver lining, the light at the end of the tunnel. Talk to us about, if there is one, but I think this is a moment of great transformation, but it'll take time for that to happen. But that's what I think is going on. That's just my belief. But what is Bed-Stuy Restoration doing in Central Brooklyn in terms of relief?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing a lot of the same things that we were doing previously, but the changes that we've been able to transition to doing everything virtually. So that includes enrolling people in SNAP, and we know there's more people who need to have SNAP enrollment, unemployment insurance, providing cash assistance, helping people figure out their eligibility for stimulus checks. Mental health services is another area that we provide. And I'll just share our phone number, which is 718-636-6994. Folks can also visit www.restorationplaza.org. Those are some of the things that we're seeing that are more COVID related, but we're doing a lot of the same things that we were doing before, including one-on-one financial counseling. We know that people's budgets are super tight right now, and we have professional financial counselors to help people get through their figure out how to budget, figure out some of the issues that are happening with funding and assistance, cash assistance, etc. For those who are able to work and want to continue to work and are able to work safely, we do have a training and placement team that helps connect people with employment opportunities. Of course, a lot of employers have closed down, but there's all these sectors that are actually hiring. So we're able to help people connect with positions. We also have our Brooklyn Business Center that provides services to small, new Central Brooklyn businesses. They're up and running in a virtual manner. We also do work with youth and young adults, helping to prepare them for careers. So we're still really doing all the same things that we were doing before, helping people realize their dreams in the face of this crisis. We've been doing this work around what is over the last 5 to 10 years been called the social determinants of health for over 50 years, really looking at the conditions that are creating health inequality and really trying to close the racial wealth gap in order to improve quality of life, health, and economic outcomes. And one thing is that we do tax prep on a normal basis. Okay. We're working. We're not up and running virtually yet, but we will be in the next few weeks. So we really do want people to come check back in on that. There is an extension, as folks know.
And I want to, but there's something I do, because this is a great litany of services that you're providing, and Restoration does have a website too that people can log on to learn more about it, and I appreciate everything that you said, but there's one thing that I really wanted to talk about before we close, and that is mental health. Okay. Yes. Yeah. And I'd like, Dr. Sweeney, all of us have been struggling with this new lifestyle that we now have, one where I see my friends virtually. I am blessed that I have a comfortable home and I'm still employed, and I just feel so blessed at this moment, because there's so many people that are not experiencing this the way that I might be experiencing it. And yet it's tough for me. You know, so Phyllis, before we get, Phyllis, talk about some of the things we were talking about prior to getting on tonight about dealing with the adjustment from all of this.
Yeah, for me especially, I'm accustomed to being out and about and involved and engaged, and I like people, and there's nothing like the one-on-one, the sitting across from someone and having a conversation, having lunch. And so this has been really a challenge for me. But what I do realize, and I'll say this, I have predictability. So I would get up in the morning and I didn't know what to do with myself. You know, things were different. I wasn't going out. And one of the things that I've had to do was to create a strategy for my day.
A structure, right? Put a structure on that day.
And you know, I do trauma. I go out with organizations and help them to become more trauma informed. I had to start talking to myself. What are the things that mitigate trauma? Because exactly, that's what I was feeling. I was beginning to feel helpless and hopeless. I even went to that point where I started feeling those things, if I were to be honest with myself. And so I had to start creating some structure, some predictability in my life. I had to start, what do? I go to the gym. So I started doing exercises online. I found some things online. Meditation and prayer is important to me. I got so stressed out that it was even hard for me to be still and meditate. So I had to start walking and meditating. I found that listening to music became my prayer.
I love the cello right now. I am into the cello.
So it's about finding those things that create structure, predictability, safety, and turning the television off and limiting the amount of news that I take in. Clearly, I want to know what's going on. I want to be informed. But too much of it was beginning to stress me out.
Can I
have to
give
you? Huh? What did you say?
A really easy one?
Yeah.
A very easy one. So many of you know that I had cancer and had a near-death bout with cancer. Was transplanted, was in a hospital for 40 days in an isolation space.
40 days.
Like literally, I was like the boy in the bubble. I could not leave. People had to come in hazmats and engage with me. Was limited to seeing my husband and my mother for a period of 40 days. Every day, those nurses came in and they made sure that I got out of bed and I took a shower. And that was to get me moving, to get me feeling like I had, like the day had some value. It had some purpose. I found myself at the beginning of this ordeal, kind of rolling through the day in my PJs. And all of a sudden I realized, no, you gotta get up.
That's right.
And take a shower. First thing in the morning. Get up and take that shower. Put on some clothes. It makes a world of a difference.
Doctor, that's right. Take that shower.
When it's making my bed, I make my bed every time. If I get up out of it in the morning, I pull it up and make it so I don't get back in it, and I can, even if I go to the chair, I don't get back in that bed.
Well, I walk. I said, you know, and the earlier the better, where I'm kind of by myself and I just breathe, because I really feel the air quality is really nice right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so crisp and beautiful. Dr. Sweeney, I'm going to give you the closing on what we should be doing around mental health and the wrap.
Well, you just said the walk.
The walk.
Whatever your exercise is, walking or jogging or running, you can do safely. And if there's no one within 6 feet of me, I pull my mask down because I can't get as much walking in if I
can't air, right? The air, right?
I need the air. But we also heard Phyllis talk about ways to keep it going. Don't lounge around, just like Jennifer just said, in your pajamas. There are two reasons. One is to give some structure. I get up and I get dressed and I put on a little bit of makeup, except when I'm going out and I'm going to wear my mask on, I don't put on any makeup. I make myself presentable as if I'm going out to do something. The other reason not to keep your pajamas on and your robe, you're going to think that you're not gaining weight and you're going to think everything is okay.
And it's not okay.
It's not okay. There you go.
Not okay.
So you need to do it for that reason. I just want to tell you, in Wuhan, the day that they went from lockdown, 80 couples ran to divorce court. So people have to learn how to sit on their emotions a little bit, because people are frazzled. They're not
talking
together so much.
Jennifer, I'm not talking.
Come out of your mouth. That's right. That's fine.
I ain't talking, baby.
Find a way to let out some of the air before you just blurt out the first thing that comes to mind.
Exactly. This was, ladies,
because it's like a pillow, you know, a feather pillow. If you kids used to have pillow fights, once those pillows, those feathers are out there, you can't get them back. So we have to have emotional outlets. Talk to your friends, not too much, not too much. My phone, by the way, gives me how long I'm on the every day. I had to cut down. I was just on it too much. So emotional outlets, not watching too much TV, talking to friends who are positive. I make a point of calling one isolated older person every day.
That's a good idea.
That is in my circle. So I call them and talk to them, ask them how they're doing. Not the same person, I just keep going around.
Right.
And so we have a long way to go before we'll be on top of this. Testing is not going to get us out of it. Vaccines are not going to get us out of it. We're hoping that with the warm weather, that will help. But we definitely need to find coping mechanisms, because just as we're in this one, even though it may be slowing down, in China, they're having a second wave already. They're already having a second wave. So we have to learn coping skills that we can use now and we can use in the future. And don't lose hope if you believe in prayer and meditation.
Yes.
As Phyllis said, I read my daily prayers, my daily word. And whatever you know it is, listening to music, talking to friends, but most of all, take care of not getting infected by doing all the things that we've been taught to do. Hand washing, wearing our masks, we have to do, or using sanitizer, we have to do all of those things while we're praying and using our sanitizer and so forth. And whatever you know it is that relaxes you, do it.
Thank you so much, ladies. This was very worthwhile. I am going to post this to Facebook, and then we can have, the next time we do this, we'll be live. We'll be Facebook Live. Thank you all. And a special thank you for Dr. Sweeney. Special thank you for Jennifer, and a special thank you to Sarah Wolf as well.
Thank